What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Our first question this week comes from Josh Lowe, who asks why Snoke doesn't have the dark side yellow eyes. I'm also going to address Kylo Ren because I've seen that question get asked a lot. So, the yellow eyes only really seem to happen when a Force user is really deep into the dark side. Anakin had them when he was killing the Separatist leaders, and then he didn't, and then he did again when he was fighting Obi-Wan. Palpatine turns them off and on in the prequels, but he does have them the whole time in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I think the simple answer is we just haven't seen either Snoke or Kylo Ren super heavily using the dark side or being affected by it. We see Snoke using dark side powers, but it looks pretty effortless to him. Kylo obviously does some evil things, but he's known for being conflicted, so even when he kills his father, I almost see that as a move of desperation rather than a conscious, dark side motivated decision. It makes sense to want to compare Kylo to Anakin and Snoke to Palpatine, but the fact is they're different characters that handled things in a different way. We know Emperor Palpatine spent a lot of his free time meditating on the dark side, so that's probably why he constantly had the yellow eyes. We don't really know how Snoke spent his free time, and it could have just been straight up relaxing. That's kind of the impression that I get, and I don't think that would give him dark side eyes all the time. Scott J-Ro wants to know if I have any predictions for Solo, a Star Wars story, and wants to know when the trailer is going to drop. We don't know about the trailer. The rumor is that it will happen this month or early this year. I'm honestly expecting it any day now. As for predictions, I think we're going to see a lot of things that have been referenced in Han Solo's past, like how he saved Chewie from slavery and they became best friends, how he won the Falcon in a game of sabacc, the Kessel Run. I think it's likely we'll see the Battle of Tanab maybe as the climax of the film. They're all pretty safe predictions from me, but one I think is less likely, a guess I'll make, or a hope that I have, is that the corporate sector will be involved in some major way as a nod to the Legends Han Solo adventures. Jay Keckler31 asks who I think will die in Star Wars Rebels Season 4, and when that show's coming back as well. Again, it's supposed to just be early January, but we don't really know for sure. Last year, I think it was mid to early January, so I expect we're at least going to get a mid-season trailer very soon. As for predictions, I'm still guessing that Kanan and Ezra will die. I think they need to. I don't think we can have any Force users in the rebellion when Luke Skywalker shows up, because then they would be able to teach him. Someone would talk about them. There needs to be a good reason for them to not be around, and I think death is the best solution, unfortunately. Sure, they could go off to the unknown regions or something, but to me that's too easy. I think they need to die. Adam Thomas wants to know how Rey knows what happened between Luke and Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, because she specifically references it in The Last Jedi. I assume that she heard a legend of Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens. She refers to him as a myth. We got the book, The Legends of Luke Skywalker. I think these stories have been passed around, and she probably heard something about how he redeemed Vader. And then she meets Han Solo and Chewie and Leia, people who would all have really good accounts of what really happened. So I'm sure that it's perfectly reasonable to assume that one of them told her the real story off screen. Henry Bradley asks if Hu Yang could show up in any origin stories about the Jedi, because he claims that he's been helping Jedi build their lightsabers for 1,000 generations, and Luke says the temple on Octo was built 1,000 generations ago. Yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable and would be cool to see Hu Yang in any older stories about the ancient Jedi, but I would, in both cases, take the term 1,000 generations to just generally mean a long time. I wouldn't take those as very specific, exact measurements of time at all. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where I left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained goodies like audio commentaries for the films or roles in my Discord server, and the combined donations really go a long way in supporting the channel. On to YouTube questions. Time Travel Pony asks why the First Order didn't jump ahead of the Resistance, split their fleet and do that to cut off their escape. I would say maybe they did. Maybe they did make a little micro jump and then they turned around. But even a small journey through hyperspace is going to put them light years away. So maybe the First Order was like just around the corner as the Resistance abandoned the Raddus for Crate. But honestly, whenever I get questions like this, I just assume that there is an answer. We don't know exactly how hyperspace works. We don't live in the Star Wars universe, so we don't know all those little technical details. So I just have to assume that there is a reason that that didn't happen, if it didn't happen, and that we just don't know it as human beings in the real world. SWR wants me to explain Luke and the map to Octo. Why did he give a part of the map to Lor San Tekka if he didn't want to be found? I actually double-checked both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi visual dictionaries. I checked other sources, and I couldn't find anything that said Luke gave Lor San Tekka a part of the map. It says that they did research Octo together. They were looking for the first temple together, but when Luke found it out, he kept that information for himself. So he went off, and when he disappeared, Lor San Tekka began to research it on his own. Now, he had a very good starting point because he had already done research with Luke. But Lor San Tekka found that little piece of the map by himself. It wasn't given to him by Luke. MadBear3512 asks why Rey can fight with a lightsaber with no lightsaber training. I think people tend to treat lightsabers as these very special weapons, and I think there's a good reason for that because I think Star Wars Legends did treat them that way. But the new canon has been treating them a little differently. We have seen Han and Leia and Chewie all fight with lightsabers in the canon. They're definitely dangerous weapons. I mean, if you're not careful, you'll cut your hand off. But they're basically just swords. It's not like you need the Force to fight with one. Rey already has combat training. She knows how to defend herself because she's had to for her entire life on Jakku. So now, combined with what she already knows and her strength in the Force, she is a very capable fighter. She beat Kylo Ren on Starkiller Base because he'd been shot with a bowcaster, he was hit with a lightsaber by Finn, and he was emotionally dealing with the fact that he just killed his father. So she was able to beat him, and Snoke calls him out on that failure. In the throne room in The Last Jedi, she's fighting the Praetorian Guard, who, as far as we know, aren't Force sensitive. So she already has a leg up on them. And I would say that we see her fighting one Praetorian, while Kylo is taking on 3 at the same time. So I do think he had the tougher fight there, but I don't think that her abilities with a lightsaber are just like crazy to imagine. I don't really think you need all of this special lightsaber training to be able to defend yourself in the way that she did. Killian Browder wants to know if any TV characters could pop up in Solo: A Star Wars Story, kind of like Saw Gerrera was in Rogue One. I think that's a definite possibility. And these guys are comic characters, not TV characters, but we already know we're getting Tag and Bink from Star Wars Legends, and I kind of think it's even more likely that we will get more Legends characters than someone from, say, the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels. But if we pulled in some more Legends characters from Han Solo's past, especially some of the more minor ones, I think that's totally plausible. Trevor Kelly asks a question related to last week's Q&A. I said that I didn't think that the Empire was overly concerned with people knowing that Darth Vader was really Anakin Skywalker, but in the Darth Vader comics, Vader kills Inspector Thanoth because he knew that Anakin was Vader. I saw a couple people bring that up, so I thought I would just address that misconception. Vader did not kill Thanoth because he knew he was Anakin. Vader killed Thanoth because he discovered that he was trying to overthrow the Emperor. He was trying to turn Luke, and then he wanted to rule the galaxy with Luke, which is what he says in The Empire Strikes Back. That is why Vader killed Thanoth, because he knew that information. He was already rearing back to cut the guy down, and then he said that he knew he was Anakin. So he was dead regardless. I just don't think that Vader cares all that much. It's not something that they're broadcasting, but it's not the end of the world if someone knows that Vader used to be some Jedi named Anakin Skywalker. That's all the time I have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just leave it down in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.